Peerless Retromatic, sort of nice semi-hollow style guitar. This is one of Dave's, and he's found a guitar that he really likes the sound of. So rule number one when that happens is don't change it too much. So one of the things he wanted was shinier pickup covers. So magically later on I will change the pickup covers in the future I'll take off the old pickup covers and put these shiny ones on, but right now that hasn't happened. You'll see later on. It's just reversal of time. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to fit a new tusk adjustable nut here. It's going to have to be thinned down quite a bit because it's a thin one, and then we're going to do a setup on there and make them play lovely and low. And right now it's a bit high, so I'm going to just do a little action adjustment. Whoops. The thing about this guitar, it has an unusual Stetz bar, which is moving quite nicely. The whole bridge kind of moves. So it sort of stretches and unstretches a string rather than drags it across the saddle. It's quite a weird thing in that respect. Let me see if I can hold it dead still. Still, please. Still. Really so. So you can see it I don't even know. I don't really even think that if we were to go, if we had a microscopic thing, look at the winds on the big fat string. Is it actually going anywhere? No, it's just sort of, yeah, it's just tension. That's all it's doing. That's a really interesting device, wouldn't you say? So I guess I've just done myself one of those fingernail shots, haven't I? Maybe I'll zoom out a bit and go, Stetz bar. Stetz bar. Never Stetz bar. Where would halfway be? Oh, I can't see. No, it's wrong side. So here, that's about right. Oh, anyway, sorry about that. But yeah, the Stetz bar. Interesting slidey movement. I like that. I do. Okay, so we've got strings, the old strings on, and I'm going to boringly mark up the frets with pen. Right. Problem with this is that it's actually quite difficult to get into tune. Well, I suppose it's like any floating thing. You have to really work to get it back up to pitch, and everything keeps moving until it's back up to pitch. So I'm going to keep the strings at their tension right now, as near as I can, and then I'm going to remove the beautiful Retromatic truss rod cover. Sorry about the hand in the way. Starts down here. I'll take that off. Well, we're a couple of days into the new second term of presidency of Donald Trump in the US, and it's been it remains an interesting time, of course, for all kinds of reasons. I think I don't want to give the impression that I'm against everything about Trump, because I'm not against everything about him by any means. In fact, I'm quite agree with some of the stances he takes on things. For example, he came out with one just the other day, on his immediately on taking office, on the inauguration, and I wholeheartedly agree with that one. So there we are. But I'm not a great fan of the style, or the kind of the transactional, the relationship style of the man, and I think I find it really interesting. What happens is when you talk about this character, it's very easy to, or this person, it's very easy to walk into a wall of annoyed people who attack you, and discussion goes out the window, which is a real pity, because more than anything else, I'm completely fascinated with how it is that different human beings and supposedly, apparently rational human beings can. Right, we've got to lose quite a bit of this. Yeah, how rational human beings can disagree so profoundly, and I'd like to explore that much more than I'd like to shout and argue about it and be, in conflict, which is a real shame because it seems to devolve into conflict very quickly. Right, I'm going to use over in the distance. I'm going to attempt to use this sanding thing for a second. Quite a rough beastie. Where's my... I got it down to straight away. It's still a bit off the other side. Okay, yeah, not too bad. Let's try a bit on the other side. Well, it's the first time I've put this sticky bubblegum creating machine into use on one of these, and it certainly has heated the thing up very quickly. It's also taken away a bit more of it than I would normally do, but we do need to take away quite a lot, so I don't actually mind. It's done that. I'll clean it up on the boards. But yeah, it melts it, which is interesting. So we end up with a bit of a clean up from melting, but we also end up with a very, or appropriately narrow thing. So let's get the big board out and see what we've got to tidy up. All right, so we're a bit in need of a tidy up on the back edge. Okay, that's quite interesting. Yes, so yeah, I like I said, I'm fascinated by it all, and I would much prefer that we could just talk about it and explore the sort of weird and wonderfulness of each other's divergent opinions in this case, because like I said, I'm always much more interested in why people think differently than the different things they think. I mean, that's as interesting in my book. So it just seems like a shame that if the environment becomes that we can't do that. We're almost there, a bit tall still, but yeah. So I guess that's what I'm trying to casually say. That's my interest in it, and I know people are massively in favour of the man himself. I think I might have to make another one of these, but this is pretty much where I want it to be, the right size. Yeah, so just like I say, shame not to be able to talk about it, and it's one of the things that we seem to be. I'm really sorry we can't talk about it, because we've got to share the world, and that sometimes bothers me, the idea that if you were to listen to the sort of responses of some of the people, who disagree with each other, you'd think that they couldn't in any which way survive together or work together or live together. We've got to somehow. So not one of those, not one of those, not one of those, not one of those. That's too big. There's the other ones. Blimey, they could be here all day. Sometimes Well, nozzles used, extract tally nuts, shims and saddles. Where did I put them? I had a bunch of adjustable nut blanks, lower ones, they are somewhere. Adjustable nut blanks. What do they call them? 3D printed nut bases. Nut bases. Well, there's a load here. 3 and 4s. Oh, maybe there's a shorter one, a flatter one. Here is a flatter one. That is a number 3. Yeah, yeah, we have got to, somehow we've got to live together, work together. So, I don't know, it'd just be great if we could discuss. Anyway, it's obvious that, I don't know, I mean, I suppose people might say to me, well, if you don't think that President Trump is a good candidate for leader of the free world, you know, who do you think is? And actually that's a pretty good question, because the answer is, I don't know, given the available candidates, I suppose. I really don't know. And I certainly don't know the bulk of the American candidates. So I don't know. I suppose that what really matters is this simpler question, which is, you know, are things in the world going to be better or worse? Would be better or worse with Biden or Harris or Trump? And I suppose that's the main question. And I'm not sure. Could well turn out that it could turn out that Trump's better than Biden. Okay, so I've got to keep control. So this is boring for you lot, I know. I'm making one of my adjustable bases, and I don't know if I can do it anymore. This is a bit too thin already. Does warm up, and I guess it goes cold again in a second when all's said and done. Oh my goodness, not sure if this is usable in this format, certainly not with putting that much heat into it. I don't know though. No, it sticks out quite a bit. See what I can make out of it. So why does that become fatter out there? Probably should have just done this by hand from the beginning, but I was trying to make things a little easier for me. Not sure I'll be able to achieve that somehow. I don't think at all I'll be able to achieve that. Well, as with all things, we will see what comes out, and I hope I'm wrong, or I hope I'm surprised or pleased and reassured by the whatever it is that DJT comes up with. You know, why I
was very big.
Oh, excuse me. I wonder who that was. It's run out of broadband, and it's spent forever finding an extra bit of broadband to kick back in when I was least expecting it. Yeah, let's hope that things work out. You know, I think what's interesting is when I find people have a very, very strongly different opinion on whether or not Britain or America should be supporting Ukraine in any way, for example. And there's some, you know, extremely strong views on that. And, you know, I've heard people in Britain kind of make it a black or white choice between, you know, either we support our own people or we fix our own infrastructure. We don't help at all. You know, we just absolutely can't do both. It seems to be the start point. It's very much one or the other in their thinking, and I can't believe that it can be that straightforward. Since we have both sets of problems, not just one or the other. Okay, so I'm nearly on the thing. We're almost at the right height, probably a fraction too low, but if I then put in a piece of brass in the bottom of here, we may just come up to the desired height. Interesting. Right, bit of brass. Yeah, and that sort of, you know, absolutism, which worries me. You know, I think it's really worrying when you can't, you know, like now I'm talking more about apologising for having a view and wanting to discuss it than about the actual substance of what I think or feel or have observed. And that is nuts, literally tusk nuts. And I think that's a real weakness of what we've done to ourselves over the years recently. We seem to have made it impossible to discuss anymore, which is crazy. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up and keep the front way looking front ways, which is there. I'm going to place that there, which is there. I'm going to check the fit of this, which is there, and I'm going to cut it short. Now this little bit of brass I use to just support the feet, the grub screws, which are flattened off as well. I did that earlier. So they stand, the flattened feet stand on this piece of brass, which gives the plastic a bit more long life, like so, like so, and then like so, sits on there, and then it goes in there like so. Okay, now I'm just going to move these things out of the way. Get this moved. Get this a minute. Part of the reason I've been thinking about these things all day really is that I had a prospective customer from the States. Actually, I've been talking to him for a couple of days about, he had asked me if I could do a custom built 7-string down to wide 6-string conversion for him, which he'd seen the one I'd done recently, or the two I'd recently done for Vince. So I said, yes, I could do it. And then he said where he lived, which turns out to be in the States. So I said to him, well, I'd love to do it, but you're going to find that's going to be prohibitively expensive in terms of, you know, the cost of courier and stuff. So I kind of, if he's still willing to pay the difference, then we can do it, but you know, it will be an expensive little transaction for him due to the increased price of the courier postage. And so I was a bit miffed, you know, how I'd lost all of my overseas business since most of my overseas business since 2016. Which coincided, well, I made mention of it, and then somebody said, tired of you, all you folks blaming Brexit for everything. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, but it might not be a direct thing of Brexit, but my European business, you know, the prices of couriers to America might not be a direct result of Brexit. But the increase of costs to get a guitar to someone in European Union certainly was a result of Brexit, and it did become prohibitive overnight. There was no doubt about that. So it bugged me that happened. You know, it's a shame to lose good business from good customers. So anyway, now what I'm going to do is check the action at this end and just adjust it to where we want it. And I think I adjusted it a little bit at home anyway, but it's I think we're just about on the mark here. Yeah, I think I already did it, but not this end. This side's come up. Okay, it's interesting. This is what I didn't anticipate. Oh, no, why? So now we have a what's that standing on? That's standing on there. That's probably standing on there. We've got something caught up there which may be preventing this from sitting back down where it wants to go. I'm just going to try this. So I'm just noticing we have not got the playing action. Well, that's down where it wants to go, but that's not going to let the bridge go down. So I think the bridge needs to go down first if it can go any further. So we're going to have to move this out of the way. Now I already had a look under here to see what the workings of this varitone switch is. And I noticed when I went to put this back on, there's a very tight fit all round with this loaded pick guard. And it's some way interfering with the tremolo. But the tremolo only really screws down there. So quite how it will sit any lower. And if it doesn't sit any lower, then we don't really have a lot of options on that treble side for getting it right down low, but it should be down the same as the bass side, unless this is getting in the way. So let's see if we can. Oh, blimey. That really isn't happy there, is it? So right now, what can I do? Looks at this. That's sitting on the bridge, normal standard bridge posts, and there's a plate there. And maybe we actually have to have washers under here to keep this down. So I didn't expect this, so I'm going to have to slack off these strings. I'm going to capo this first. So little details that can drive you bonkers. So this is all my tuning undone now, and I'm going to have to unhook the strings, and we're going to take this stats bar mostly off. Let's have a look through the mirror. Yes, and we're going to see a sort of really basic thing is, can we get an action out of this that we want? Because if we can't, then we're in a bit of a spot. It's whether this thing can sit better. Come on. Come on. Holy coly. Come on. Thank you. Ow. Thank you. Ow. Trying to save a set of strings here so I don't have to waste a set of as sacrificial strings. So come on, right. Okay, so difficulty. This thing here. Right. That's somehow still probably in the way of that, but that doesn't fit very well. Anyway, so let's get 5mm hex key. Let's take that off for a second. Let's have a look under here. Okay, hex key and washer. Hex key and washer. Okay, so up comes this, and that is keeping this up, and that's as low as that will get. Question is, can I get it on there and on there? Well, actually that is as low as it will go. So what am I thinking of? I can't go any lower. Action on there, action on there. We've gone as low as we can go. That sits down on there. Yep, we are flat on the deck, aren't we? Let me see. Yeah, we are flat on the deck. And we are flat on the deck. So beyond that, above that, that's the minimum height. And we aren't going to get anything else out of it unless we can remove this. And put, so this presses down and that sticks up in the air. Or it's supposed to sit in there. Okay, let's just take this away for a minute. Look how tight this is. I mean, that's mad. See that? Not ideal. Right, let's replace the bridge first and see if we can get it to seat any lower at all. Not that I'm sure we will be able to. Now there is a little groove in here which should allow this to sit a little. How can it be a groove? Is that it? It's not really that far down on that side. Now I've got to think ahead. If I can't do anything, if this doesn't improve it, then the only thing we can do is to remove those two what's-its, but will it sit flat further down? It will try and pull forward. It may sit a little tiny bit further down. Right, I guess what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to leave that thing sticking up there for a minute. So that's it, flat down on there. And we are sticking upwards a little bit. It has a bit of, it doesn't really have a bit of tilt. And is it touching those posts? Well, your guess is as good as mine. In fact, it doesn't look like it on the other side. All right, so we have a problem here. This pulls itself flat at a certain angle, a certain plane, like so. And when it's tightly done on there, it sits like that. And it's not even resting on those two, what do you call them, bridge bushes. And if it had, hopefully if I could have taken those out, we could have encouraged it to sit lower, like so. But it won't, because this is its natural seating position. The only way I could make it sit down at front, paradoxically, would be to lift the back of this up with washers. But then, even then, that doesn't guarantee that this would go any lower. It would technically, it will probably still just keep coming out at the same angle. And we've got that whole wiring over there, which isn't great. So it's locking on. And the only other option I've got after this is to remove metal from underside of the bridge, which is, you know, it's a custom bridge. Obviously I'm saying all of this because we've got no movement whatsoever in the neck. It's a fixed, a set neck. Now there's nothing massively unusual about this, except that it's got a thread inside of here and these little things to go up and down. But up is not what we need. That's crap, isn't it? So if we slack off, let's see what we can do to the front if we slack off. So we slack off here and we slack off here, and the front will go down bizarrely. That's not brilliant, is it? So let's have a look how far. Okay, so down to there and down to there. That allows it to sit forward. Now you'd say that was not ideal. But let us see if, with it like that, we're going to get a playable action out of it. That's all I can do, really. We can leave that hanging off for a minute. Well, that's not the right string anyway, so what am I doing? See? Was I somewhere near about to say, oh, this should be a pretty straightforward one, this Peerless Retromatic? Because the thing, I didn't imagine that it would have a geometry that I couldn't set to a lower desired action, which is not the words I want to hear myself say. That sounds like a song. Sounds a bit like it's more than words. Right, so I'm just chucking these strings back on. We're going to tighten up and see if, when it's all rigidly done up, we get a better position. And if we do, we may have to run with it like that and say, because under tension it's not going to go anywhere, but it may seem a bit unpleasant to an owner to have it, I'm talking Dave at this point, to have it loose when the strings are off. So let me just tighten up. Thanks. That jumped in its little thing. So now we're, everything that's not perfect, this is not in the right spot really. There you go. Now we are bottomed out on this, there's no further down we can go. This is tilted forward more than it was, which is quite interesting. Now I'm going to try and get it roughly to tension. It's not going to be perfectly easy, but so I'm just looking at this and it's a little bit close to the deck here. May have to make another one of base, but we'll see. Let's just get it going for now. Okay, that's our thingy. Hold fire. Oh, still high. It's better than it was. It's 175 and too low on the bass side. Well, that's the same now. Balanced it up, equaled it out. So we're going to have to live with this for the time being. We're going to have to come to a, we're going to do the setup. We're going to have to come to a decision about what we're going to do. Wow, this really doesn't like to fit together very well. Okay, I see. It's that. It's the bloody printed circuit board that wants to go in first, and then it leaves you in practically an impossible situation. Gee whiz. That's loose as well. Oh, what a crap set of designs these are. Now, can I even get this chicken shack thing off? Right, I can get that off. Oh, God almighty. I can do this up. Turn it that way, which is the best way. Try it that way. Everything on, nothing's broken off. It's not a million miles off. If you wiggle these things around too long, you'll end up with something broken. How does this go under there? Like so? How does it go under there? Not like so. Oh, Jesus wept. So, in short, this has to be, oh, crying out loud. In under there, in under there, in under there, sort it sideways. Oh, now this doesn't want to go in, and that wants to get stuck against the, so it literally doesn't fit against the Stets bar in that position. God. so that's no, I can't even drag this thing back. The steps bar has this positioning thing, which means we can drag it back. How do we drag it back? No, that's pushing it the other way. We can drag it back a little bit, and then we've got only the tiniest amount of room to adjust forward with the blimey. Now it's only the bridge part moving, isn't it? I don't know why so this never moves. Of course it doesn't move, stupid me. So this is it. So we can't move that. That's caught as near as, damn it, well, just about sits on there. It's got a little dent. It's made it not ideal. There's our little chicken lever going in, let's say, that direction. That'll do. Okay. So I have a finite action here of 175. That's nearly 2, in fact. That's a high action. Well, mind you, the other thing we've got is we've got a dead flat, sorry, way too much relief. So we may get a good deal out of the relief change. Fingers crossed. I'm at the other end doing a relief, neck relief adjustment, so I'm going to shove in a load of tension on the truss rod and see if it brings this up to nice and flat. Now these are quite light gauge strings, so they may need to be changed again afterwards. So here we are with, now we're too low on the base side, which is promising, because it means now we're nearly where we want to be. Woo-hoo, on the other side. So we can get this up. Now that's kind of looks a bit crazy on the overall bridge angle setting, but I don't care as long as we can get where we want to be. Hello, how are you? We are fully out. Now that has now lowered the nut angle action, so I'm going to redo the nut because now we're quite some distance off. This is a good example of how far off you can be once you've changed the relief. So I'm going to just crank this up. Actually, no, you know what this really needs now? This needs switching back to one of the original bases, but I have to reconstruct it. It needs a taller base now. Okay, well, let's do that. There's no better time than now, is there? We still need the same width. Let's see, with a combination of those things, we might just get there. Right, you, thank you, you, thank you, you, thank you. Now we have to wind this back in, wind your neck back in, and I'm going to have to I need to go to the noisy, scrapey thing again, sanding belt. Come on, spit it out. Okay, so it's very thin at the front edge, that's all you need. Bear with me. sorry it's so boring. If it comes to worst comes to worst, I will, if I have to, revert to a regular fixed nut, but I like these type on this type of guitar, so I was insistent on persevering. I think we might just be in with a chance of getting the thing at the right action, which is brilliant, with a combination of adjustments. I think the slacking off at the bridge end, I think it gave it a little bit of lift, which is good. Where are we going with that? Okay, that's interesting. We're peeled off the front of that one. Actually, it doesn't even matter. I'll just get it in there for now, and let's carry on with what we've got. A bit on the back. Fits in there. Now is that, oh, it's somewhere in between, that's what annoys me. It's kind of a bit off each. 1 second. We shall see. Yeah, so here we are in the new era, and I'm very much looking forward. I would like to be surprised, please. I would like some genuine common sense to prevail in all areas, and those who are confident that that's what Donald Trump brings, then good for you. Bring it on. I welcome it. I very much welcome it. I mean, you know, I will happily concede that while I was glad that Biden is at least supporting Ukraine, albeit sometimes too slow and too far out of time, you know, it's too late for what Ukraine needed. What's going on here? Narrow at the front. Yeah, it was a bit late coming, but and as many people said, it was never enough to win. It was enough to just not quite lose, which is not a very good position. And certainly, that's a very strong rag to a certain Russian bull. So, you know, let's hope the Trump administration is a bit more direct, and if it supports in a way that really makes a difference. Let's see where we are at. It's so difficult to get these And we're back. It's a funny height, this thing. So I really don't quite know where I'm at with this one. I may have to revert to something else, but I just want to get it so we can get the fret leveling done. So for some reason that one's too low. Why is that too low? Because that's high, isn't it? We know that's high on this side. Kardashian. Right, let's see if we can just get this up, tuned up nearly. Right. So we got down to, realistically, between 1.25 and 1.5, and we are as far backed out as possible with that one. Right, that's it. There is no more. We have nearly flat, which is a little bit of relief. That's okay. So 1.5, 1.5. Not quite perfect on the treble side, but let's get on with leveling. So we're getting there very slowly. Okay, so for those of you who are looking at this with a view to use your golden banana files that you bought from Reed Love Guitars, here we are. This is how I use it. This is a quick demo. Now, for many of you, the amount the bar will change as you use it, as you adjust it, will be different for each one. Some of them change more or less than others. It's just the way it is. Now, how I do this is I touch down on the left side and then come down on the right side, and I look to see whether the middle hits first or the outside. If the middle hits first, this bar is too curved, so I just slack off a tiny little bit. Some people find they can do the adjustment with their fingers. Now this is flat, completely flat, and that's because the neck is almost completely flat as well. So I get this totally flat and use it now as such on the neck. So now I'm going to level what I call the E track, which is the outside track for the E string, and just sort of quite gently use the banana file up and down, and what we're going to see is where it's cutting on the frets, and it tells us some information about the way the neck is working. So never the easiest thing to see. Okay, so cutting, not much, but a little bit. You still can't see. Cutting quite a bit, a lot. So we've got a high spot here right in the middle of the neck, cutting a little, none at all. So we've got a low spot here, and then we've got 2 highs and 2 lows, or 2 regulars, 2 lows. So we've got quite a lot of low going on here. So that's the way the neck is behaving. So it's the way the neck's handling under tension, which is really interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to level it a little bit. Again, not a lot of pressure, just gravity more than anything else. And this second run, I'm looking at to see if I can pick up any of those low frets in this little run. And if I can, it tells me they weren't excessively low. And I can pick up some of them, so there's a couple low. So 2 low here, 2 low there, and the rest of them are being touched. But this is high in the middle, relatively high in the middle. So that's what we're up against, and this is what the golden banana, or the banana tool, as I like to call it. That's how it's helping to take down these slightly high frets. So now if we not bad. Now I'm going to use the same calibration on the B track. So I lift the B out of the way and split apart the strings, and we use the beam like so. Now these aren't massively new frets, so I'd be happy not to take an absolute ton of fret material off them, and I don't think we need to anyway. These have been flattened before, but you can see they're quite relatively flat. They're flat, relatively speaking. So it tells me, I know I haven't just done that with this 400 grit paper, so I know that that's a sign of it being level before somehow or other. Because you can immediately see a fairly flat spot on the frets, relatively flat, but we'll recrown that. So that one's quite high, those are high. So there we are. Now what we'll do is we'll check the B string notes. To make some, probably have to do some thingy adjustments. That's fine. We're a bit high, flat, so we'll push the saddles back a bit. So I'm going to recalibrate now for the G string. And probably expect it to stay pretty much the same all the way through. Yep. So sometimes that's what we find guitars, when the manufacturers don't quite anticipate people wanting a low action, and so mechanics of the tremolo or the neck body joint just don't permit it, and it creates a big problem if you want a lower action. You know, you don't really have a lot of options when it comes to lowering the action, and you saw a few little attempts, combination of things that we've got it down a little bit, but it's still not at the level I would prefer. So, let's need to dusty those. Good, we've got all the bends playing as well. So we now move on to calibrate for the D track. This is like right on the loose on the rod, which is fine. Watching some Telegram channels yesterday, to my astonishment, well, not surprised really, actually, seeing them sending out, the Russian army sending out wounded men to go and fight. They don't take them back behind the front lines to a field hospital. They leave them on the front lines and put a bandage on their wounds, and then they send them back out. And I've actually, and this is, with my own eyes, I've actually seen 2 or 3 men at a time with crutches hobbling across the open fields to storm, because they've been told to go and storm Ukrainian positions, with their crutches, and probably with a rifle over their backs. I saw another video of people in the muster area with what they call them things here, crutches, and they had rifles slung over their backs. So presumably they'd have to stop moving and put the crutches down and grab their gun. But needless to say, they didn't really get very far. I don't know whether some people would say, oh well, that's the, it's a noble thing, proof of the sacrifice. Sacrifice of a true patriot, but some people might find that really noble. I just find it desperate, desperate and heartless when you consider it's not an existential fight for those people, regardless of what the little man says. I think maybe that's the mistake he's made, that it in fact is an existential fight for the country that he's invaded. I suppose that always puts a bit of zeal into somebody's performance. I think it probably did to the Allies in the Second World War. I mean, that was very much an existential fight from the very beginning, right until the low points in summer of 40, when the Battle of Britain was underway, and everybody knew, the reconnaissance showed very clearly that invasion barges were stacking up in the Channel ports, and it was inevitable that they were coming this way. And that was an existential fight. And nobody, no matter, I can't imagine any political angle you come from that you would credibly argue that Ukraine had any plan whatsoever to attack Russia. And having said that, I guess I'm sure that somebody will say that. The leader of Russia herself says that, so it wouldn't surprise me that mouthpieces would also say that. Anyway, somehow existential fights are always fierce-est. So, you know, I didn't think, I'm not optimistic enough to think that Trump would do anything that he mouthed off about, you know, ending this war within 24 hours of, or before it even get into the White House, it'll be finished. All the hostages will be home from Israel in less than the time it takes for me to drive up to the White House, or whatever it was he said. And it's never going to happen that way. And of course it didn't, no surprise. And General Kellogg, retired General Kellogg, was more realistic, saying, imagine 6 months. I don't think that's really going to happen because, well, I don't know, unless the American approach changes drastically. I think we know full well that Putin is not. He wants the full capitulation. Capitulation of Ukraine or nothing. So there isn't any middle ground. I can't see. I can't see how Ukraine would accept that. It would be. You might as well, give in and sign the death warrant of your nation. So I can't see the Ukrainians being willing to sacrifice a great chunk of their country. That's a Russian drone that caught me there. A chunk of their country, and basically demilitarize, give up all the land, promise never to join this, be subject to limitations of armament and so on and so on. I can't see any sane person accepting that. They were supposed to be protected the last time they gave up armament. It never happened, so I wouldn't be going for it again, particularly if it is life or death, which it clearly is. Okay, so now we've got the leveling done. This is not much cop. I'm going to need to I mean, it works, but it's like cross section now. I think I'll either just have to make a solid one or use it a different one. But I'll worry about that afterwards. We've done the important bit. It worked well enough for now. Right, all of these strings now can go in the bin if I can persuade them to come out. Holy cow. Can I persuade them to come out? Can I hell? Oh, you serious? Not the best, not the best design and configuration in the world, Peerless. But plus side is Dave likes how this sounds, and it has got the Variomatic knob, which gives you which gives you access to a number of useful tones quickly without any hassle. Now, in a minute off camera, I'm going to have a go at polishing up these knobs, because they're good quality little things, and I can't find any of that size the same. So I will use a little roller and some of that stuff that we call, what do we call it? Autosol, the car polish, chrome polish. And it does sort of work, but it doesn't. It needs, maybe I need to do it with a Dremel spinny thing. Now what we also could do is a clean up on the headstock. So let's see how much grime we can get off just as is. I think it probably needs these removing and a bit of a clean up doing. I mean, it's a bit of annoyance, but you can't really get a headstock clean without moving the tuners out of the way. And you can't, well, I suppose you could remove that for the time being. Bridge. There goes some tuners upside down on top of the thing. Guys, was this a good idea, Sam? No. Serial number begins PE. Peerless. Well, my vain attempt to keep them all in some sort of order has failed. Well, that's okay. They aren't actually any different, but I'm just going to give this a quick clean up. And over to the grubby side over here. Now, I'm not going to take off the Peerless sign. Don't know what's under there. It might be stuck for all I know, as well as screwed on, but that's enough to give us a little bit of a clean up there. Okay, so the next part of the game is the recrowning. We'll put it down on the ground like so. Get the crowning file. Now I'm going to repaint the frets because they've got a bit, well, no, that's what we do. Why am I making out that's a big deal? I'm going to do the frets because that's what we do once we've leveled them. We mark them up again like so. And then we use the crowning file to reshape the frets and turn any of these flat spots back into rounded frets, so they're the correct arch shaped things. Semicircular half pipes outside of the half pipe. I'm going to do, just a moment, while I'm doing stuff with these lovely new covers on, I'm going to just cover them for the sake of scratchy stuff. Okay, so really, I suppose we could go there. What we're going to do is get the medium side of this StewMac crowning file, and we're going to run it over the frets like so, and just round off the flat edges whilst leaving a little line of black marker pen down the middle, which is a way of me knowing that I've crowned the fret, but I haven't reduced its height any. That's the important thing. And then I'm just sort of cleaning out some of the pen from on the diamond particles to do the cutting. So I don't know if you can sense, but this is going quite quickly, so it just goes to show how little metal I took away in that leveling. But having done it, this method, what is good is that I know that for the chosen action that the frets are geared up to play, so I know they will play good notes. Now this will take a bit longer, this one, because this was flatter to begin with. Remember I said that some of them were, one or two of them were, where's it gone? There it is. One or two of them were flatter to begin with. So this one here takes more work. It's got a flatter spot on it from before I did it, but I still inherited it, so I'm going to do the honours of rounding it off as much as I can so that it's resumed its arch shape. So that one took a little bit longer, so will the next one or two. Some of them, if they've been heavily levelled in the past, they may be coming close to the point at which this tool can't work with them any further, but it's still just about in range. If it is below the administrations of this tool, you can still usually bring a three-sided file to it and do it the old way, but it's, you know, it means you are working with a lower fret than those heavily hit ones, which is not surprising. We know we've got a high spot on here, and this is all about the high spot shows up mostly after the neck is loaded. It's less likely that high spot is showing up when the strings are off and the neck is levelled on the bench. Well, not levelled, but dialed level with the truss rod adjuster and set flat, I should say. So levelling, the point here is being levelling it without the compression of the string pull means that the frets are literally in slightly different positions than when the neck is loaded and under stringing loaded with the strings. And that seems to bunch the neck up a little bit, more or less, depending on what kind of wood it is, what sort of construction the neck is. Various things affect it. But once I kind of realised it was doing that, it really did make even more sense to level it this way. I'm not levelling it now with strings on, but when I did level it, we had the strings on. It makes sense to do it that way because we're levelling it, as I say, with the effects of the compression at play, instead of levelling it without it at play with the neck relaxed, getting a relative level with the neck in a relaxed position, and then loading it with strings and having the compression of the neck pull the frets once again slightly out of alignment, or bunching them up, I should say. So it's quite a big deal, and over the years I would confidently state that quite a lot, if not most, of what we think we're doing when we say we're levelling frets is actually quite a lot of what I'm doing here is in fact levelling out the bunching effect of the strings loading, the pull of the strings on the neck. So of course there are some certain amount of fret unevenness, and I've always said that levelling your frets with the neck flat on the bench and the strings off is a lot better than not levelling it at all. But there's a fair difference that then is brought back into play once the neck is loaded and compressed. So that's quite interesting, because I used to think it was only a couple of percent, but it seems to be quite a bit more than that in my experience, which makes it a good method. But that's not the only reason I use this method. The other reason is, as you could see, is that because I'm choosing the action I want to level for, and I've got strings on, I can check as I go whether the frets have been leveled enough to work at that action, and I stop leveling when I can conclude that they are level enough to work at that action, which is what's so good about the method. So I confidently say that it takes off as little fret metal as possible in order to make the chosen action play. So we don't take off any more material than we absolutely need to. And I think that's just a bit more economical with fret metal, and since fret metal is the life and soul of the frets, it seems to me always a pretty good bet if you can save as much fret metal as possible. So I'm just going to give these a little bit of a rub down. They're tarnished with age, but they're perfectly good quality tuners, so it wouldn't be sensible to throw them away just because they're a little bit older and tireder. Would you throw us away because we're older and tireder? You would. Well, there's other things to spend good money on. Okay, so I'm just giving these a quick sort of rub down with some naphtha. I bought the original Russian version of Solaris yesterday. I had it some while back, and it was on CD, DVD, and I lost it because they're too much pain to actually keep and use. But I wanted it on just download, and I found it on Apple thingies for $3.99 to keep. It so unpopular or unsexy a film. And the reason why is that the original Solaris that, what's his face, George Clooney tried to resurrect and Americanize. He did it with as much respect as he could muster, actually, but it still didn't capture anything, in my book, anything of the original. And the original was so good because it was of 1972. It was glacially slow, long camera shots. Plenty of time for this oppressive build-up of the feel of the space station-y thing, space station stationed above the Solaris ocean. And it was a shame to speed it up, really. Although, like I say, I thought, what's his face, George Clooney did a fairly respectful job. You could tell he treated it with some reverence, but I don't think he could. You couldn't speed it up and modernize it and do it justice. I mean, its whole pace of it was of another era, and it made it very otherworldly. Right through to the fact that when I first saw it, we were still in the depths of the Cold War, and the place this film was made was a different, strange, brooding, foreboding, moody, somewhat scary place. And of course that's not quite the same now. Okay, we've still got play in there, but we have to have it if we want the low action. That's the way it is. Now, what are my thoughts on this? What am I going to do? I'm going to remake something, make a new one out of an old one. That's a good old-fashioned. How did that get stuck together? Come on. Yeah, so I was chuffed to get it for £3 something, and I watched an hour of it, and then kind of thought, right, that's it. It was pretty late by that time, and I thought I'll park this and come back to it. What sort of size? And funnily enough, that is about the right size. We could use this. Let's give this a little clean up. So we're going to next, probably off camera, do the polishing out. Having recrowned the frets, it's they need sanding and polishing out. So I'll do that going through a whole series of grades of paper. Takes about half an hour to do, and it's dull. See, that's maybe that's a bit uneven. That's why. Okay, I'm going to clear that up and see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this up. We will mask off everything off camera because it's boring, and I can listen to some news. And I'll come back when I have polished these out, put the nut on, and got ready to restring. So see you in a little bit. Oops, this is out of sequence, so pretend I'm not doing this before starting anything else, okay? But I just thought you might be interested in a process that is little known to me, but I just tried it out on the P90 and that was successful. So, well, I'll tell you when I hear it play later on. So I took the tarnished original cover off and replaced it with a new one. But it sounds easy, but this business of preparing the new thing, whatever it's called, cover, with some, yikes, with some solder, and then getting it to stick and make electrical contact to the old one, whilst this is all in situ, is actually a lot difficult than it looks. So we have to remove pickup. And this one, from what I've read, the humbucker requires a little bit extra work. Actually, it shouldn't. Okay, so this is, yeah, I'm just thinking, does it? Probably shouldn't, actually. Hard to tell. So we get our little humbucker out there. Got quite a bit of reach, which is quite good. So we'll take our sprung loaded What's-It off. And so here. This is, oops, still a bit more. This is, I'm going to try a bit of Dremel polishing on the knobs, but I did buy some replacements that they really don't fit the bill exactly. They're a different style. Very difficult to find a small size, miniature sized What's-It like that. Okay, so here we have our humbucker, and it's attached by these two solder points. Now, I managed to get the get them cut through last time. I've tried this before and I gave up in a previous life because I just hated the idea of heating this thing until it kind of melted everything around it, because that pickup there is one king-sized heat sink. There's no two ways about it. So what you have to do is you have to cut through it, and you cut through it in a sort of leverage sort of way, like so. So you really don't have, I've got the neck supported in there so it's not pressing on the headstock itself on the ground. So I can press down here fairly robustly. And I've got to go in the side of here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself, this isn't the strongest of knives to do it, but the first thing you'll feel is wax. So it's a wax potted pickup, which is great. And really you want to try and cut the wax a little bit away. Because you've got to get the pickup, got to get the cover off. Now, the thing that always frightens the life out of me, or frightened the life out of me doing this, is of course you're whether you like it or not, you feel like you're very close to the original wiring of the pickup, and if for some strange reason your blade goes off to one side or another and does damage, I can't see how you have an awful lot of control over that. So here are cuts down two sides. Now what we've got to do, in a strange way, we've got to now cut down into the, what's it called, that stuff, solder. And the problem with it, or the challenge with it, is you've got to sort of wangle your way down through it like this. It's the only way you're going to get through it, is to rock and break off your knife. Great. With a bit of luck we should get that off. So it's not the strongest knife in the world, so I'm trying to, there goes another piece. I've got it through. We'll get the bits out in the end, but that's come away, that's fine. And so we've got to do a similar thing here, and as you can see, it isn't the strongest blade in the world, and so we have to just try and cut our way down. As you can see, I don't have such a very good approach on it this time. So it's kind of like pushing down and over like so, and then you've got to be able to push in here as well if you're going to stand a chance of cutting it. Really not really complying. Now, like I said, if you tried to heat this up and disconnect it with a soldering iron, I think you'd be there forevermore. There we go. Not the kind of thing you want to be doing really next to a pickup. Now I'm going to, you probably can't see too well, I'm going to be hoiking it out. There we go. Right, so we've got a tin with some stuff in it, wax. We've got some wax stuck here, which is fine. It never hurts. No amount of wax in there is a problem. So we'll get rid of our blade here. Put that out of the way. I'll chuck the wax in that tin there. Shake this out, make sure we haven't got any other bits of blade. So we can see where the solder is, the original solder is, and there's another bit of blade which we can get rid of. Now, what we want to do, and the books show me, it's interesting that we got the this stuff, the waxy stuff all the way around. In the videos I've watched, people tend to put it, when they're doing the replacements or putting on a thing for the first time, they tend not to swim this in, fill it totally with that stuff, wax, because I think it's quite difficult to do unless you're dipping it. So I think what they tend to do is they get a bit of tape and they cut a piece to cover over the slug coil. And I'm just literally guessing this, which is probably a silly thing to do. It cost me more time in the long run. So I'm going to put a piece of this over there like so. It's going to be fine. And then what I saw them do in the new cup, people tend to put some wax. And here I have a candle already made earlier, which I'm going to drop some wax into the tin side, not so much the thingy side. Now what they do in the videos, and they show you how to do this, is then they get their hot air gun and blow some hot air at this to soften the wax, and you get it all sort of squished back on. That's the idea. Whether this will be enough to spread everywhere, your guess, it'll be as good as mine. And I'm going to switch that off and squish it so it doesn't smoke the blaze out. So we can either, oh, I didn't check the size. The size should be spot on. Yes. So now we can gently squish that back on like so. Now it is a fairly good fit, but we might want to try and squeeze it in a bit more, but it's not easy to, it may actually be a slightly different sized what's it all together, cover, in which case we may have to pull the screws out, the poles out a little bit on the pickup. So we put that one off to one side. Sorry, you've not got a good view there. I've been squeezing that to get it tightened up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just plug in my hot air gun. Before I put that back in or do anything else, I'm just going to warm this up. And the guy did it at handheld distance, so he sort of shot it from this side like so, and whether or not that's really going to do anything for the wax in there, your guess is as good as mine. If it strips out on my hands, I'll know it's worked. In the meantime, what I still really want to do is push this in a bit more if I can. That maybe that's probably gone a little further on. That's not so bad. Okay, that was probably worth it. How about that? So there we have that. Now we have the fun thing to do, which is to put together these little fellas, and they kind of spread a little bit in the process of doing the sort of prizing apart. And I somewhere have pliers things, which I've now, here they are, which we now can use gently, sort of pipe squishers. We can probably use these to very gently persuade that to go in a little bit. I'll just get that bite on it, so something like that. Yeah, that's it. It seems to push it back out a little bit. Anyway, we don't have to fight for this. We can raise that up a little bit. So now we can make sure that the soldering iron is at full whack, and then we do our best to connect up this outside, or the layer the bit we put on the inside with the stuff. Oh yeah, that's really heating up the wax in there nicely. It's all shoving its way around. So this is the very hardest bit of the lot, because this top surface here, even though it's getting hot enough to melt the wax, that is very, very difficult. This is a heat sink. So if I heat this up and put that in there, it just eventually becomes quite a big blob, and I haven't really found a way to guarantee it sticking to the original. I mean, it looks like it's sticking, but we'll probably find out the hard way if we get a whole load of unwelcome buzz. So what you can do at this point is, if you think these are a bit low for your liking, you can use find where your screwdriver is. There it is. It's a bit waxy now, but we'll clean that up in a minute. But you can bring out the poles a little bit for your own kind of aesthetics. So that kind of looks all right. So we followed all the instructions, and with a bit of luck, everything will be fine. A bit more at this end, tiny bit more here. Okay, so the next bit that concerns us now in the thing, of course, I'm going to switch off, go back to the beginning in a minute, and pretend like I've always been in this position. Now, sometimes what I do here is when people put in these springs, they make them excessively long, so that you have to really push even to get the first bite on, which we could do without. So I'm just going to take a fraction off here and a fraction off this bit too. So we should, with luck, have a route about the correct length. Oh, okay, let's not imagine that's going to be easy to do, shall we not? Okay, so we put one on at a time then. Two is on there, second one's on there, of course. Okay, so nearly there, and the thing we want to do straight afterwards is test the pickups. Now this will need to go down quite far because the bridge will be needing to stick up a fair bit higher than the neck one. We don't need all of this extra stuff, but we do have the little holes down there to accommodate it. Although sometimes I like to chop the excess off that we really don't need. Okay, so here we have our new covers, looking a bit grubby now for having been handled. And get these on. So pain in the butt as it is to pull up a cable and all that sort of stuff right now, I'm going to do it because, as I said, the one thing we want to be sure of is that it works. So before I restart everything, we'll go back to the beginning. Gentle with this because I don't want to tap it too hard, but it's nice clean Watsits. Okay, so I have a feeling that's connected. Is that not making noise? Is it because it's so well insulated, or is it because it's working on the poles, but that's not, I don't know if it's grounded or not. So I'm just a little concerned. I've never known a P90 not sound off when you do your thing with it. So I think I better double check the connection. If it hasn't worked between the cover and the pickup, then it would just mean that this isn't grounded. I'm not sure how that's possible if that's live and touching there. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what it should do. I mean, that looks like it's got to be connected. Oh, it surely does. I mean, it's a bit big, it's a bit blobby, but when you say that's connected in there, maybe I'll do a bit more, and that seems to be connected there. Let's fire a bit more heat just for troubling's sake. Let's fire a bit more heat onto this blobby one that is annoying me anyway because it's a mess. See if we can get it to behave. Full heat. Let's go. So I want this bit here. Come on. All the way down the side. Well, I can't see any other way that that's going to connect up. It has a bit of connection. I don't think it had that before. I'm happy with that. Just needed that little bit of response, so I knew it was grounded or connected, but it is now officially grounded. Ho ho. And I will just put these back in. There we are. Good. Okay, so in a minute I'm going to go back in time, forward in time, back in time, and set this guitar up. So I will switch off the whatnots and off we'll go. That that label on the inside is a bit loose. Wish I had some gum, but I don't have any gum. I'll leave it as it is, and if it comes off, I will see if Claire's got some at home, and we'll try using some of her stuff. Right, so there's our changeover with our new fitted shiny things, with a bit of the old, what's it? That stuff. Wax, a bit of wax coming through. But there you go, fresher and shinier for Mr. Bing. Woohoo. All right. Now what happened? Am I losing my mind? Middle. Oh. Why isn't that picking up a tuning fork? Okay, it is. It's just not turned up very loud. Oh, stop threatening myself. Okay, right, I'm going to magically stop and revert back in time. Here we are. Ta-da! Polished, oiled, and of course, stupidly, I had already planned, bought and sized a nut for this guitar. I can't believe it. So I went off on a wild goose chase, a bit of a wild goose chase anyway. So that's sorted, because I already had a nut bought for this guitar. And something made me go off and think of an adjustable one, which I may be mistaken with somebody else's, because I have somebody else who wants one on their guitar. Anyway, so I am now going to re-string, and we're gonna get this tuned up and sorted out. Now let's have a look. I'm going to put 10s on, so in fact I think 10s will get us to exactly where we want to be, because excuse me, I think yeah, 10s will suit this very well. Okay, so I'm just going to get my winder on thing. Sorry, terrible, worst angles in the world. I've become a terrible, no, I am a terrible camera person. Right, let's just get sorted. I don't know why I've got two hex keys attached to the drill screwdriver, but hey. Okay, so here it is. First one, pull it back, most of a fret. Pull it up, hold it under. So we have the loose bit coming out from between two coils. I'm not going to put this under too much. Oh, I've forgotten the bridge. Where's the bridge? Silly me. Right. So, as I say, string in over the top, through there. Through there, straight through, on its notch, pull it back 1 fret's worth. Start winding, keep it taut, over the loose one first time round, and get ready to direct it under the loose one second time round. Like so. So it's a bit of an unusual little beast, this. Presented a bit of a challenge with the height business. Oh look, I've just forgotten. Look at me. I have forgotten to do up these. I'll do this by hand in a minute. Okay, where were we? Where were we? Through the hole, pull tight, pull back 1 fret's worth, put on your winder thing, get it the right way, and wind over the top. And underneath. So what would I really recommend if you wanted any slightly lower action? I guess we would be looking at sanding down the bridge by 1 millimeter, and it could take it. It's a flat bridge base. I don't think it would do any harm, but I'm not going to do this to this nice original guitar. But I might have done it, or might do something like that if it was mine and a keeper. Change hands. Over. Yank that up, send it under, take the finger out of the way. Yes, so I bought myself Solaris, and I'm looking forward to watching it slowly, the way it was made, and trying to understand better. I've read the book a couple of times, and it still hasn't. I loved it when I first saw it when I was about 14, 15. I was mesmerised. Late one Friday night, I think it was, when I wasn't supposed to be out watching TV. My dad was, it was a time when my brother and I, was he there? So, no, I think my brother had left, but I was left living at my dad's house, and he was we hadn't lived together much in our lives, but he kind of tried to give us a home when we were in our teens, bless him, but it didn't work out. We were teenagers, and he was a sort of a bit of a Richard Briers type, straight-laced kind of guy, and yeah, it didn't work out. But during the time I was there, We used to go out on a Saturday night to play piano in a trio. Probably heard me say this story or similar, but yeah, we used to go out to a local motel which had a trio playing, and him and his mate on bass and another mate on drums, and my dad on self-taught kind of tinkly jazz piano. He sort of, I think he was very well taught. I think he was a good improviser, and anyway, so the idea, I think, was supposed to be that young men were supposed to be in bed while he went out and played, and so of course as soon as he went out I would switch on the TV and watch the Friday horror film or whatever was on, and then I'd be kind of listening out for his car coming back over the up the driveway later on. Oh no, that's not in its hole properly. Yeah, kind of listening out. And so I'd watch these films and I'd hear the car pulling in at sort of 1:30 a.m. and I would hit the TV off and kind of rushing upstairs and get into bed. Of course, the TV, this was 1975 or something, 3, 4, 5. The TV was this hideous vintage box that my dad had never spent anything on. He got it from a jumble sale or something, and there was one like it. In fact, the only one I'd ever seen like it was in the Coventry Museum. And of course it had a little dot. It would disappear to a little dot in the centre of the screen. Yeah, so I guess by the time he came in to the house, the little dot was probably still on the surface of this little horrible vintage TV screen, and it probably stayed there for about half an hour. And of course, it was still warmed up. Anyway. Yes, that was how I used to watch my late night horror films, all the best Vincent Price horror films, and whizzing upstairs. And that was that's how I first saw Solaris. Just really remembering. I think I got to see all of it, so we must have been very late home that day, because it is and was a 2.5 hour film. Extremely long. But I think as a kid at that time I was absolutely obsessed with science fiction. Yeah, it was just completely blown away by it. So it was right up my street. The fact it was so unusual and Russian and slow really added to it for me. And there was always a little clique of kids who would sort of talk endlessly about the film they'd seen the next day at school. And so Solaris was a very cliquey thing, if you'd seen it, and you could discuss it, you were part of a special little group. it was quite a sophisticated thing. It didn't give you any really easy answers. It was an adult film, you know, grown-up film. Which is why it captivated me, I think. Okay, so just going to quickly intonate this. I've put the screws on this side because I think it's about the only place I can reach them. So I need to send the saddles backwards. I'm just going to see if I can reach them easily enough. Yeah, not so bad. Back you go. So I'm just going to keep tweaking it until I get the E in the right position. Okay, back we go. Sorry, I don't know what the view's like over here, or what are you even looking at, because I'm a terrible cameraman. So that's about right on the E, so I will just adjust everything to match. Wrong way, wrong way. Back you go. Forward, but back, and back you go, and forward you come. Close. Let's see. Doesn't sound that great. I mean, tune-wise. Maybe I haven't stabilised. No, I haven't. The tuning's not yet stabilised. I'm busy intonating it. You can do it, but it's not going to be in tune at the end. You need to stretch it all out, so I'll do that. Yes, at home. I think I'll do it while I'm playing it. Okay, so there we have it. Done. Thank you for watching. Don't know where we are. Oh, I'll put the thing on. I think let me just check one thing. I think the relief should be just about right now with the tens on. Yeah, it's quite flat, but it's not too flat. I think we can lower the high E some, if I'm not mistaken. How can I? Oh. one's come and wound itself up for some reason. That one wound itself up. That one is not even lifting up, so that should be in and that should be out. Yeah, I've got to stretch it out because it's on a fully floating tremolo. It's not going to stay in tune until I stretch it completely. All right, that's good for now. Thank you for watching. I'll put the this bit back on since it's I think it's nicely in, got the right curve to it. And after that, what will I do? Look at this, it's always the way, isn't it? It goes just on the side of your string. You have to move something out of the way. Yep, so that's it, Retromatic done. Stretchy, lots of it. And the intonation is correct, but it won't stay in tune just yet until I've fully stretched it. And it won't balance into equilibrium until I've fully stretched it as well. And that is the downside of having a fully floating bridge, but there we go. So, Retromatic, fully Retromatic, with fresh covers, polished knobs. This is, I can't make this stop rattling. There's something about it that just won't do. There is a setting at the back here that can, well, you can prop this so it doesn't move, but we want it floating. We can have it as down only. That's a possible one. It makes the that's a good point actually. It makes the thing more stable tuning wise. So if we were to, let's get the correct thing out. Not that one. Where's the thing? Okay. It's not that one, it's not that one. Where's the in-between one? Come on, don't do this to me. Okay. So if we were to go where's the adjuster? I can't remember which one of these two things adjusts it. Right, this one is the sort of stop off. It's still got this little bit of movement in it. If we do this all the way up to here, lock it against the wall, that pushes both sides. That locks it off altogether. Okay. Okay. Fully forward, fully back. Let's have a look what happens when we dial this one up. Okay. Increases this pull. So what we don't have is a bar that locks off completely stiff. I mean, that is fairly stiff, but it won't, I mean, you can get it round to about there, but it has a little bit of move, but the move's actually in the whole unit. It's not in the bar anymore, which is okay. Beautifully out of tune now. I will fine tune that at home, but there we are for now. Thank you for watching. See you again soon.